this is something I wanted to ask a lot about, because I think it was Elizabeth Warren, the American senator. She wrote the book, The Two Income Trap.
That's right. Yeah. Pocahontas.
Pocahontas. Yeah. But the point she makes basically in the book is that with women becoming a major part of the workforce and all of the attendant benefits that you laid out that come along with that, we've also sort of found that slowly the amount required to function as a household, like salary wise, has increased as the sort of combined salary of the household has increased. That the economic cost of having kids in a household has risen, whilst
it's partly to do with housing costs, and there is an argument. Some people say you might sort of old-fashioned Labour people might say, well, the old family income has been eroded by employers, but employers have sort of taken advantage of that big shift of women into the labour market. Actually, if you look at what was happening in the 50s and 60s when in the 1960s, you saw the fastest growth of incomes, working class incomes included, in this country ever. So I don't think it was. I mean, it was partly there was a sort of the opposite of a virtuous circle on housing costs. So as more women started to go out to work, their household income increased, which meant that they could bid higher for desirable housing, which then sort of forced other women to go out to compete for housing. I mean, it was also because women wanted to go out and needed financial autonomy in a world of less certain relationships.
But I guess my question is basically, is the disparity between that stat, like 9% of people would prefer both parents to be working, is that out of economic necessity, do you think?
Well, a mix. I mean, I think, it's mainly economic necessity, given what people tell the opinion pollsters when asked about their ideal arrangements. I mean, who is it? Catherine Hakim is a sociologist who looked at these issues a few years back now, and she talked about British women being divided 20-20-60. So 20% British women are very career and work focused. It doesn't mean to say they don't want children too, but very career and work focused. Perhaps in quite high paying professional jobs. Would be back at work, 3 months or 6 months after having a baby, expressing milk and so on. Another 20% are very family focused and would, in almost any circumstances, would prefer to be a stay-at-home mother, at least for most of their children's childhoods. But then 60% are the so-called adaptive women who want to combine the two, but at least when children are very young, are somewhat more family focused than the very career focused women. And I think that's probably, just from sort of looking around the people I know and so on, that kind of strikes me as being, and indeed from opinion surveys, that strikes me as being a kind of reasonable way of putting it. And but our public policy does not at all reflect the preferences of women, and that, of course, is partly because the women who tend to dominate in the public realm and who dominate the policy debate tend to be the 20% who are very, very kind of work and career focused, and that and that's and we've made a decent amount of progress in improving childcare, making it possible for women to both be mothers and successful in the professional sphere. But there's a very large, probably majority of women whose voices we hardly ever hear, who would be who would much prefer to have a home care. So I mean, I calculated that if you did give that £9 billion direct to parents, if you also front-ended child benefit, if you have two children, it's what's sort of getting on for $2,000 a year. If you and it goes on for 20 years, if you have children in education after 16, I think it is, if you gave that if you front-ended that, give half of that in the first 3 or 5 years, rather than spreading it out where later on when you need it less. And if you also recognise the family and the tax system, which we don't do, and again, we're international outliers in that, you could come, I reckon, to a home care allowance of about 10 grand a year. And that would be the difference between being able to stay at home and not, for a lot of families, I think. And the stress, the reduction in stress, I think far more relationships would survive that very, very difficult period, high stress period, when people first have a young child or young children. Their old life has gone. They're suddenly home focused, and they're at work, and often the demands of work. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. They're often sort of climbing up the greasy pole. I mean, these. I think now we have to make sure that time taken out by a woman, or but maybe increasingly a man, it's unavoidable that there would be some parenthood penalty. It's obviously usually a motherhood penalty. There's, you can't completely eliminate it, but we should work as hard as possible to reduce that, so that people could take 5 years out, 7 years out, and return at a similar kind of level. Obviously, people would need to have your skills freshened up and so on, but I think a lot of work has gone. Rightly has gone into that, but we have absolutely, the woman the mother who would actually like to stay at home is a sort of invisible figure in our culture, and that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
Marketing agencies, listen up. I know you're stressed, so I'm gonna let you do less work and get better results. I'm talking about Ad Creative AI. I wanna show you some of my favorite features. Paste your landing page, and then in just a few steps, Ad Creative AI will have enough information to generate hundreds of ad creative. Check out the ad text. Each one has a copywriting method that you're familiar with, and they even have suggested audiences. And now you have your complete strategy and asset for your client. This is the text projects feature. Obviously, they're gonna generate you some compelling ad copy that's focused on driving results. They have over 250 million ad texts and headlines, which is way more than you and I could read in our lifetime. This is your brand CTR score compared to your competitors, your ad fatigue, and even best performing colors, labels, and ad text, as well as your top creatives. They even turned this into a PDF so you can send it directly to your clients. You can now sell Ad Creative AI to your clients while making it look like your own internal tool with your own colors and logo. If you're interested in any of these sweet new features, check out Ad Creative AI's agency package.
Hey everyone, thanks for making it right the way to the end of the podcast. I love that you tuned in this long. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, because 80% of you bastards are not subscribing, but you're watching my videos. See you next time.